The Truth About Health premieres this month as a weekly JMC broadcasting production, with Christy Lee as your show host. Christy Lee is an award-winning former mainstream news anchor and independent journalist with more than 20 years of experience in broadcasting. Honored as Best Anchor and Best Enterprise Reporting honors, she later anchored at a Fox affiliate in California before walking away from legacy media after witnessing its deepening lack of journalistic integrity and shift toward propaganda. Christy is a fearless voice for the voiceless and a staunch advocate for holding power accountable. She's been featured on Fox News, The Bongino Report, InfoWars, Lindell TV, and numerous independent platforms nationwide. She has interviewed high-profile figures including RFK Jr., Dr. Robert Malone, General Michael Flynn, Ron Paul, Carrie Lake, and many more. The Truth About Health premieres June 2026 as a weekly JMC broadcasting production. This weekly broadcast features expert doctors, scientists, and healthcare professionals. We don't reject science, we go further in it. We go beyond symptoms, headlines, and hype, bringing you the truth about what actually heals the body. Thorough healthcare coverage, including new technologies, legislation, and justice, will also be addressed. Sign up for free at jmcbroadcasting.com and tune into The Truth About Health with Christy Lee, only on jmcbroadcasting.com.
Saturday, July 4th here in Thailand, anyway, 2026. You're watching this on Monday. Happy 4th of July, America. Happy celebration to America and the world. My name is John Michael Chambers, and welcome back to Bosi Briefs. I want to thank you all for joining us. This program publishes every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi weighs in on the current events, and we'll be doing that in just a moment. Please share these episodes far and wide, and do subscribe for free at jmcbroadcasting.com. A couple of quick announcements before we bring Riccardo on. Sheila Holm, come join us on July 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern in our private Zoom room for our premium members. Check it out, jmcbroadcasting.com. Click on Premium Portal and see if this is an option for you. If it is, we very much look forward to seeing you there. We had Mike King last month, Wano Savin the month before, Will Barney. We've had a lot of different folks in here. We very much look forward to Sheila Holm. Again, July 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern, for 1 solid hour, live in our private Zoom room for Sheila to answer your questions. I'll be your host. Another announcement here, Wano Savin and his Chief of Staff, retired Lieutenant Colonel Matt Meck, and a team are putting together the Storm Summit. This is fresh off the heels of the very successful and very productive and very well attended Fraud Fighter Summit. So come join Juan and team at Storm Summit in Las Vegas, same hotel, September 10th through 13th. They'll be addressing arrests, honest elections, and honest money. Boy, oh boy, those are the issues, especially coming up to the midterms, which more than likely will be delayed. But that period of time will be pretty intense and very important. So come show Juan some love and get empowered and meet other patriots that you only usually see online. All right, for those just coming aboard, who is Riccardo Bosi? Riccardo Bosi is an international treasure, former Australian Army Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel who served 24 years in the Australian Army. He's the national leader of Australia One Party. Please welcome retired Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi.
Hey, John, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Great to be here. Thanks again for your kind invitation.
You bet. Thank you for being here. You know, to those newly coming aboard, this is our second year of Bosi Briefs. We publish every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for following and sharing our work. We're going to have Riccardo weigh in on off-world entities at the end of this broadcast, and also next war. We're going to be talking, not me, Riccardo is going to be doing a very informative. Why don't you give a little commercial about what you're going to be talking about a little bit later in the broadcast, sir?
Sure. It's the topic is next war, but it actually links the 30 Years' War in Europe in the 17th century and the Treaties of Westphalia. It links the assassination of Khomeini, the former Iranian supreme leader and that action in that particular conflict, as well as generations of warfare, methods of warfighting that go beyond the fifth gen. So it's a little futuristically focused and links nicely to any off-world discussions.
Very interesting, and it'll be good timing because I'm going to be running an off-world clip with Alex Collier and Delta Force's retired Colonel Chuck Sellers. So I look forward to your presentation and getting educated on this subject as well. I've got a lot I really want to cover. We're going to comb through some, we call them B-roll here, but basically, some clips from the media of some of the narratives that are important that are out there today. Let's begin to my producer. Let's run this first clip of President Donald J. Trump.
We've got D&I Pulte over there as the new director. We also know you have the task force set up on declassification, maybe talking about international, maybe looking at some declassification. Are you able to give us an update on that?
Declassify almost everything. And by the way, we have Jay Clayton is going in. Bill Pulte's a very talented guy, but he's just there temporarily until Jay Clayton. And Jay Clayton is going through the process. And Jay Clayton, highly respected, and so is Bill Pulte. But Bill is there just for a fairly short period of time. But while he's there, I said, you can declassify whatever you want.
Do you think we're going to get some soon, or maybe 2020?
I told him you can do it as fast. You got to ask him.
All right.
But I think he's a friend of yours. I think that Bill will declassify. I told him you can declassify whatever you want. So Bill's there just for maybe a month or 2 months or something. And Jay is going through the process. He's got a hearing in 2 weeks. Highly respected man, Jay Clayton.
We're going to declassify almost everything. What say you, sir? That's a big statement.
Oh, I think he's telling a lot of truth there, meaning there's more going to come and faster than we can imagine, and in fact we can handle. We will be overwhelmed. Now, keeping it in context, timing is everything. That which can be declassed immediately will be, but progressively things will take time. Some things will be declassed in years to come. Some might never be declassed, but there's an emotional connection we've spoken before in terms of those people who've experienced an event and the time required for that pain to be ameliorated, and time heals most wounds. And so there will be delays in certain reveals, but what's required, mobilize the population to get them to stand up and actually say enough's enough, let's do this. That'll come thick and fast, and it will be intentionally overwhelming.
Well, there you have it. I very much look forward to it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I just want the truth of our history, old and present, and real time. So I very much welcome this and look forward to it. Time heals all wounds. Somebody once said, time wounds all heals. I guess it depends on how you look at it. I have another clip from The Witch. Let's run this clip and have Riccardo Bosi weigh in on this.
You should definitely be worried about everything. This is a naked partisan takeover of the Director of National Intelligence. But I am sure they are cheering it in Beijing and Tehran and Moscow and other places because it's a shambles.
Later on, Clinton applauded the Supreme Court for upholding a Mississippi state law to count mail-in ballots that arrive late as long as they're postmarked by Election Day. And she claimed that Republicans are upset with the ruling because they can't win a fair election.
They can't win a fair fight in a district or a state, which is why Trump is so obsessed with, stealing voter rolls and purging voters. His Republican Party, which has, become a cult, answering only to him, can't win a fair fight.
Boggles the mind. Boggles the mind.
Man, it's been so long since I watched mainstream media. I've forgotten how vomitous it really can be, and it's like we've gone back in time, decades, to the old world. And these people are completely, they're selling a story that are completely incompatible with what the people now know about how the planet is run, who she is personally, and everything that derives from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is interesting to visit the mainstream world here. But I like the clip with Trump. That's real. You know, the commander in chief speaking with the media, telling them straight up, "Hey, go ask the guy in charge. I told him to declassify almost everything." And then you got the scripted witch on the fake news apparatus with the complete opposite of the truth. It boggles the mind that there are still some people that can stand next to Hillary posters and say, "I'm with her," but very few remaining, in my opinion. To my producer, what does image one look like? Let's take a look at this and see what this inspires. Well, this is Joe DeGeneva. Let me set this up, Riccardo, if I will, and have you comment on this. There are several new developments in the Russiagate investigation. Veteran prosecutor Joe DeGeneva has uncovered a massive FBI document, several hundred pages, that reveals malfeasance in the FBI's probe of candidate and then President Donald J. Trump. Yeah, no newsflash there, really. But also note the key persons of interest. Now, here we go. FBI Supervisory Intelligence Analyst Brian Auten, who was instrumental in several Trump-related investigations and rubber-stamped the dossier's use in applications for the FISA, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrants, targeting Carter Page. We remember this piece of history now. Celeste Wallander, and top Obama White House aide and Russian analyst later appointed to the Pentagon by President Biden. Former CIA analyst and Biden aide Eric Ciaramella, who secretly worked with then House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, one of the most corrupt of the lot, on the first impeachment of Trump as the so-called anonymous whistleblower. So former intelligence community Inspector General Michael Atkinson, who worked with these folks and Schiff to facilitate the first impeachment. Former Clapper aide, Nugent, who helped craft the sections of this ICA dealing with Russia cyber threats. I can go on and on. I'll conclude. NSA Director Admiral Mike Rogers has been offering new information to investigators. So we have a lot of different departments and individuals seemingly and reporting here, very busy behind the scenes. And of course, we've talked about the hand grenades of Tulsi Gabbard. When you connect the dots on Kash Patel's work, the DNI, Pulte acting now, Trump saying we're going to release all this, DeGeneva doing what he's doing here, all roads lead to Obama. July 5th is just around the corner. Actually, as folks listening to this broadcast, it's just past July 5th. What do you see unfolding as a result of the behind the scenes and not so behind the scenes anymore actions as it relates to tribunals, justice, and fireworks? I'm not talking about firecrackers. I'm talking about other fireworks that may take place when we really start to nail these people down. What do you see happening?
Yeah, this is the transition from the leaks, from the conspiracy theories, inverted commas, and the allegations, which we know are quite substantive. But now we've got the hard evidence that mainstream media will be compelled to report. And they will report because they're under control by and large, the White Hats. But now it's going to come out to the target audience in a formal sense, presented by the trusted names on the legacy media to the target audience. And so this is that from the conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat wearing loons, to, oh gosh, did you hear about what happened in Russiagate, or whatever the story is? And it'll continue with all the stories that we're more than familiar with, but it's going to continue now. This is that beginning of that tsunami that will just never end.
Yeah, that is such an important point you bring up. And I want to clarify. I've been doing this on other broadcasts that I publish, as well as right at this moment. It's been brought to my attention by the public. What is the target audience? So, well, for a little bit of time here, I'll put the definition out there for folks, and then we'll walk away from having to define it. But the target audience, ladies and gentlemen, in part can be defined as those that are just sort of, we used to call the target audience sheeple and normies, and words that that we used to describe people that are just blindly following information, which turns out to be propaganda and false. But the target audience is really those of you who are just waking up. You know, you're still watching Fox News, but you're looking at us now. You're looking for real information because you kind of smell it. You see the rats, and you're looking around and you're finding broadcasts like ours and many others, and that's the target audience. Folks that are waking up, looking around for the truth now, and we welcome you here. And when we use the term target audience, you have, and I'd rather Rick just explain this. You can do a far better job than I. Continue to elaborate on target audience. In other words, this administration speaks to different sectors. Please elaborate on that, and we'll finish off on target audience.
Sure. It's actually the technical term in psycho operation doctrine. So PSYOP doctrine, and the military has doctrine for everything, and doctrine is basically what it is we do, how we do it, and why we do it. And the target audience is that group that you are literally deciding there's a message to be given to a particular demographic. That's that target audience. We have another message to give to a different demographic or psychographic, and that's that target audience. And as John said, the target audience now, which was previously used in a disparaging term by the black hats as the victims of their propaganda, we use it in the sense of, as John said, our target audience are those that are just waking up. They need the facts. They want the facts. And it's being presented to them in a way that is digestible, rather than using the enemy's techniques of lies and misinformation. What we are doing is presenting facts, verifiable facts, to help them inform themselves and then come to their own conclusions about the nature of truth. Because that's at the basis of all of this. The black hats have always lied, cheated, and stolen. The white hats and we, the anons and reporters, truth seekers, whatever you want to call us, all we have ever done is present the truth in the clearest way we could in order for people to make up their own mind. Because out of a respect for their sovereignty, their right to the truth, and their right to their own determination of the truth, that's what we do. We just present the facts as best we can. We're not trying to deceive, trick, persuade anybody. Literally just lay it in front of you. And if you like it, great. And if you don't like it, that's great too.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. And trust but verify. You know, as you get information on my broadcast or anybody else's, if it doesn't make sense for you, it's not resonating, go down the rabbit holes, get some skin in the game. That's what we've all done. And you arrive at the truth, ultimately, is what we're all trying to do. And as Riccardo said, that's what we do. We seek the truth. We present the truth as we know it to be. Are we right about everything 100% of the time? Of course not. It's a psychological operation. But by and large, we're on the pulse of truth here. Turn off the fake news is my message there. Let's run this clip speaking about truth. If I understand what this clip is, I think this gentleman doesn't understand what truth is. Let's listen to this clip.
I'm not just doing this on behalf of myself. Yes, I'm the sole target of these two investigations down in Florida, but I'm doing it on behalf of others who are being harassed and who are being subjected to the same type of punishment and condemnation. And we have to stand up against Donald Trump and the abuses of authority. And the fact that the Department of Justice is being exploited in this way. So what I'm trying to do is, align myself with those universities, those law firms, those individuals who really are pushing back. And I realize that this is going to, irritate the Department of Justice or the Trump administration, but it's the right thing to do. And I think in light of what's going on in this country and all the abuses of power and all the corruption that is going on, people have to stand up, because it's John Brennan today, but it's going to be, I think, many others tomorrow.
Boggles the mind. Boggles the mind. Your take on Mr. Brennan there. What's happening?
An Academy Award winning. If anybody's actually ever worked with a psychopath, I've done so in the military. Sort of military lunatics that troops up in helicopters and throw them out in order to persuade them to tell the truth. And psychopaths are an amazing class of individuals, and that's what these people are. They will bald-faced lie to your face. They couldn't recognize the truth if they saw it. They have no central core of morality. They adapt to everything and anything that they need to do to survive. They would never sacrifice themselves. And Brennan, of all people, putting himself up there on the cross alongside Jesus Christ. I'm doing it for you, folks. I mean, give me a break. He couldn't lie straight in bed. Yeah, the guy's bent as. So anyway, it's fun watching. It's fun watching all this because it reminds me of a story I heard once where there's a group of, I'm not sure exactly which mental disease they had or illness or they had difficulty communicating with people, but they were watching a news broadcast and a politician came on and they couldn't understand the words because the words were off, but they were roaring with laughter because they could see the disingenuousness on this individual's face, the trying to persuade people that this particular politician was honest. Without hearing a word, the entire room burst into laughter at the obvious deception. And that's what this is. It's just fantastic to watch.
Yes, it is. And in your crystal ball, but really from your deep understanding of the operation that we're engaged in with your incredible years of experience in special ops, military and intelligence and so forth, what do you think is the ultimate destination for the gentleman like Brennan? Fast forward his existence a few years from now. Where is he? What's happening?
Well, if he hasn't already been charged, tried, found guilty, and executed, that's in his trajectory. At the moment, we're seeing images of someone saying that they're Brennan. It's filling a gap in the narrative because all of these things have to be sequenced. It's not so much a time-driven event, as we've said many times. It's an event-driven process, and so this is filling a role on stage right now that we need to see these people saying what they're saying. They're digging. Basically, they're being given bigger shovels to dig bigger holes for themselves and to generate real antipathy. When the truth comes out, they'll have a recent memory of Brennan, not the sour-faced fan of Islam, but an obvious attempt to lie and deceive to the people. And so it's a recent image. And so if they're coming up now, I'm guessing that they're not too far from a public reveal of their arrest, trial, and execution.
Excellent. You talked about disingenuous faces. To my producer, let's do a split screen, 3-panel split screen with an image. Disingenuous faces in the room of laughter. Here we have, of course, James Comey, federal judge Louise Flanagan hearing the James Comey anti-Trump seashell case. 8647 has blocked amicus briefs supporting Comey because she says Comey doesn't need them and has enough representation from his army of now no fewer than 8 high-priced lawyers Comey's got. It's not clear if Comey is paying retainers to all the different law firms or perhaps some are defending him pro bono. Regardless, his legal fees will be substantial. Peel the curtain back, as you just did with Brennan, peel the Comey curtain back for us. What do you speculate is really happening in present time? And again, the same follow-up question, the ultimate destination for the biggest criminal cop in history, James Comey.
Yeah, I'll kick off with that image of him when he was presenting the report on Hillary Clinton's server. And he was sweating like a turkey that knows Christmas or Thanksgiving is around the corner. It was just, again, I found it funny, but then I'm a cruel and nasty bastard. But once again, this is now a more recent picture. So they're bringing these characters into public consciousness recently, so they can remember. I saw him last week. That's right. I remember who he is, because as you know, in terms of TV, people's memories are very short because the next thing is on and the next thing is on. And so once again, they're bringing it and combing up because they're now raising those faces, public consciousness, recent pictures to remind everybody what they're accused of and what's coming for them next. So I think this is great news. You see Brennan and Comey and whoever else's name is coming up. Watch this space. Watch them very, very closely. Now, we know that as one card falls and gives up others, and then that next tier gives up others, and the next tier gives up others, there's going to be this cascading effect of individuals that one has ratted on the one before it. So this is going to be fast and furious.
Excellent. We so much waiting for it, as you know. Timing is everything. So I do trust the plan, and I don't worry about what I can't control. But I'm getting a bigger bucket for my popcorn. I can assure you of that. Let's take a look at image number 3, image 3, and see where this takes us. All right, this is good news. A federal judge has halted the U.S. Postal Service's proposed changes. Well, that's not good news, but let me get through the feed here and we'll discuss it. A federal judge has halted the U.S. Postal Service's proposed changes to its mail-in ballot delivery procedures, dealing another blow to President Trump's effort to restrict the practice he has long criticized. Postmaster General, you see on the screen, David Steiner, confirmed last week the service would not deliver mail-in ballots in states that refuse to hand over sensitive voter data to the Trump administration, telling lawmakers it was meant to ensure the right ballots are going to the right people. So we have movement now directly at the post office, which is critically important. That was one of the methods when they deployed the pandemic COVID that they utilized to flip votes with all the ballot, what do they call them, the mules and all that stuff. So we got a shakeup here at the post office. What do you make of this news story?
Yeah, it's the bad guys are claiming privacy of the system. The federal government has no right to collect the data on these individuals, and in a sense they're right, because states are responsible for conducting their elections their way. Unfortunately, we know that the actual corruption is on the side of the bad guys, so they're using this as a fake defense of individual rights when they have there's a ton of evidence that they have done everything but run fair elections. And so it's the typical accuse your opponent of exactly what you are doing. I'm not sure if it's the same thing happened in the US, but here in Australia, electoral rolls in their entirety were handed over to the Chinese Communist Party to help with our elections. So I'd be surprised and amazed if the same was done in the US. And again, like the US, we have a lot of dead people that vote regularly and have for decades. And this audit that is required, the sanitization of the electoral roll, which hasn't happened in Australia for years, and I'm guessing same in the US, hasn't happened for years. It's one of those necessary steps before an election can be held. Might be setting up the reason why the midterms cannot go ahead, because there is too much doubt that the electoral roll is actually accurate, and so there might be this fight between now and November why we can't have an election, because the electoral rolls are poisoned.
Absolutely. We're going to continue on the election trajectory here. Let me see where I'm going, if I have a clip or not. Apparently I don't at this point, but let me talk about this. I'm going to read this to our audience. This was published by CNN, and there's a reason I'm sharing a CNN publishing commentary here to have Riccardo weigh in. The FBI has ramped up its investigation into this is CNN. The FBI has ramped up its investigation into the 2020 election in Georgia by dedicating more personnel to what an internal memo refers to as a, quote, priority. A person familiar with the matter told this to CNN, ramping up an inquiry into the election that President Donald J. Trump falsely said was rigged. All right, so there's a little CNN jab. The memo, which was seen by CNN, calls for the FBI to quickly bring in an additional 260 FBI intelligence officials on top of those agents already working in the Atlanta area. Some of the intelligence personnel, which includes people who are skilled at analyzing data, will work on the investigation remotely. A law enforcement official familiar with the investigation told this to CNN. Now, the reason I invoke this is because it's CNN. I think I'd like you to elaborate, sir, is you talked about it before. To an extent, the White Hats have control over the media. I mean, because now you have CNN actually contributing to the narrative even though they had a jab or two in there against the president. They contributing to the narrative that the elections may have been stolen, and we're going to have to look into it now. I find it interesting that it's a drip into mainstream news, particularly hard left like CNN, kind of being, I'm going to use the word forced or whatever, to start having the narrative. Put that in better words for me, sir.
The analogy we've always used is as a guerrilla war. Now, guerrillas in fighting a conventional army have very few assets of their own. They don't have weapons, ammunition, rations, water, tents, vehicles, weapon systems. So what they do is they constantly steal that of their adversary, so they can actually have some sort of offensive capability. Now, what did the White Hats do way back when? Did they establish a new social media machine? No. They got Elon Musk to acquire X. Did they create a new television network? No. They just penetrated and took control of the existing systems. This is a fairly standard procedure, using the enemy's weapons against them. Now, that can be done whether the enemy knows it or not, because you can imagine you've got the actual useless idiot reporters here. You've got their black hat controllers, and their black hat controllers are accustomed to getting instructions from above. And all you have to do is replace the person up top to start giving different directions. And these people just blindly follow. They've been doing it for years. They know they tell lies on a regular basis. Same here in Australia. Mm-hmm. And so whether all the way down the line the people are aware of it or not is not the point. The point is they're using the enemy's weapon systems against them, in this case CNN and the media, so that the journos might or might not know, and to find out they're doing the dirty tricks. Now, DJT and the whole 2020 election story, it's like the tethered goat. DJT is the tethered goat. And if you don't know that story, in order to catch a tiger in the jungle, you get a goat, put a rope around its neck, stick a stake in the ground and tie the rope to the stake. Now, the goat can't get away. So that's the tethered goat. And it attracts the tiger. And then when it comes in, you can capture the tiger. And that's what this is. The actual 2020 election for the longest time was, Trump can't let it go. He doesn't accept a free and fair election. He's a sore loser. And that's the narrative. And as you saw, the CNN report actually threw that in, saying that Trump falsely claimed the election was rigged. And it's supposed to put a salve on the wounds felt by the Democrats, for example. So it can't be a 180-degree turn by CNN in one hit. President Donald J. Trump, a man of impeccable integrity, is right about the election. No, they've got to turn this very large vessel around. It's going to take a couple of kilometers to turn this particular container ship around, and do it in such a way that it doesn't look like a shocking about face. Now, we have that in Australia already. Our useless idiot reporters, and they are handpicking the same ones who are most insulting and offensive, say, during the COVID issue. The same people are now turning around reporting that, COVID might not be all that good for you, and maybe COVID actually has caused some injuries, and maybe COVID caused some deaths. And so they're using this whole process, and that's what's happening with CNN now. And again, whether the journos know it or not the point. The whole mechanism is under the control, and the White Hats are using it to change the narrative in a way that is acceptable to a population that has been brainwashed, MK-ultra'd, poisoned, demoralized, lied to, propagandized for many, many years, and it's going to take a while for people's minds to be changed.
Thank you. Great analysis, and a good time for America and the world. Getting the truth. Truth will set us free. I'm going to shift gears now and get into off-world conversation. But before I do, we pedal back to what you and I have just spent a little bit of time on, connecting the dots. Kash Patel has gone on Maria Bartiromo and Impressors very recent weeks, and it's basically said we have everything and we are coming after you. That's his statement. Then you've got the DNI, as we're just connecting some dots, DNI Gabbard, we'll call it the Gabbard grenades. They were dropped as she left. And now that information, which are no longer ongoing investigations, they're complete, and now they're moving over to justice. We have, we just saw the clip earlier in this broadcast with Trump being asked by the reporter who clearly stated, acting D&I Pulte. I authorized him to declassify almost everything. We have that to look forward to. We heard from Brennan. As you said, they got to bring him back out to remind people, so and so forth. Comey, already indicted, bunch of felony charges, and CNN sort of having to share a bit of the story. And we go back to our great president and commander-in-chief. We all remember him sitting there in the White House. I forget which room it was, but the media was there, and he said, all roads lead to Obama. He's committed treason. And what's the punishment for treason? It's execution. Those are some serious dot connecting, folks. That's what's happening from a 40,000-foot view. I believe between July 5th, which in my opinion unofficially marks the dawning of the golden age, these events that are about to take place. It's July 3rd USA as I'm recording this now with Riccardo, July 4th for me and Riccardo. He's in Australia, I'm in Thailand. But I believe the dawning of the golden age gets birthed, if you will, on the 4th, and then a whole lot of things. You talk about fireworks, there'll be all kinds of different fireworks taking place from July 5th forward. Your 40,000-foot view of my commentary, as I've just connected all dots, because everyone's waiting, people are jumping ship. If this doesn't happen by then, I'm finished with Trump and the movement. There is no plan. Why don't you remind the folks what you think is going to transpire between July 5th and December 31st?
Okay, so what's happening is with the 4th of July celebrations, which will become an Independence Day for the world, not just the United States, morale is being boosted by this fantastic event called the World Cup. The world has flown into the United States, and they're like cousins who haven't spent time together because their parents don't like each other, but the parents are out of the room, so the cousins are having a great time. The world loves the US loves the world, and it's raising everybody's morale to a high level. And this boosted morale, substantive reasons for it. 250th anniversary of the greatest constitution of its type in the world, at a period where after 200 to 250 years over history, most civilizations are in decline, and yet here we have the United States, which was intended to be destroyed by the rulers of this planet, is actually experiencing a renaissance, which is just unprecedented and a lot of fun. And so what's happening is the morale will be boosted. Now, this is key because we know between now and the midterms, when the midterms are supposed to happen at the end of the year, a lot of bad news will be coming out. A lot of hearts will be broken. A lot of disappointment will be felt by many, many, many people. Their favorite sports heroes, their favorite actors, politicians, you name it, business leaders, they'll be revealed for what they are, which is not very nice, and that's going to hurt. But what they can hang on to as a result of this magnificent sequencing of events around the 4th of July is the idea of America. And whilst the facades fall away, this idea that is America, this unique experiment in government of, by, and for the people, is what the US will hang on to, and the rest of the world will see. And that's going to help them get through this bad period towards the end of the year, and then get ready to move forward to rebuild their country. Not the idea of the country, the idea of the US is fantastic. It's just the bad people will be gone, and this is an opportunity for every American to stand up on their own 2 feet and retake their country.
Well said. And excuse me, folks. The way we covered the UFC 250 Freedom event on Bosi Briefs, and in the recent, just published, folks, Global Defense War panel, I'll make a quick announcement. That's just published, I think, in the last 24 to 48 hours. Of course, Riccardo's on that panel. Was Riccardo Bosi, Derek Johnson, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox, Michael Jaco, and please don't let me, and Captain Rob Cunningham. Folks, you'll want to listen to that broadcast. We covered a lot. It was 3 hours long, so take your time, pause it, come back, listen. Powerful episode. That panel covered a lot of critical issues, as well as the one we're discussing right now. But I want to move into UFOs in just a minute. But to summarize what we've been discussing here, you talked about America exceeding by historical measures, our freedom and constitution, and bigger and better than ever, and spreading to the rest of the world in due time. What comes to my mind is the light of God shines on this land, and now's the time to take our stand. And that comes actually from a song I wrote many years ago, an excerpt from it called Save America. And here it is actually happening 26 years after I wrote the song. But the light of God does shine on this land. And the light of God, of course, never, ever, ever fails. So get back, sit back, pray, plan, and prepare, and enjoy the show. Because there's nothing but goodness and amazing things at the other side of what we're going to be enduring a bit in the next 6 months. That takes us to this. President Trump promised transparency. He delivered. The first tranche of UFO files has been released, a total of 4 now, with over 1 billion people having already visited war.gov/UFO. But this is only the beginning. The files are coming in waves, and what they reveal will challenge everything that you thought you knew about history, humanity, and even our place in the universe. I'd like to feature this and have Riccardo weigh in. This is the premiere of Off-World with JMC. We had our first show a few weeks ago. This will be a monthly. I was joined by Alex Collier, contactee and researcher and educator who has spent decades sharing information from fifth dimensional extraterrestrials, as well as retired Delta Force, our good friend Colonel Chuck Sellers, who shared his own firsthand encounters with off-world entities. And it was an extraordinary episode as Sellers walked us through what took place. But Collier explained the deeper truth. Humanity is much older than we realize. We have lived other lives in other realms. The benevolent races want us to remember who we are so we can become a sovereign civilization and join the galactic community. Sellers recounts a 2.5-hour telepathic visitation by a team of 8 beings, 4 men, 4 women, as he described, who walked through his wall and showed him the history of the world. Now, this is Delta Force's Colonel Chuck Sellers, folks. The timing is no coincidence. 10 scientists died or went missing. The NSA board was terminated by President Trump. Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day hits the theaters. I saw the film. I encourage you to do so. Chuck then connects it all. This is something I learned, to the 1954 Greada, Greada Treaty, a deal Eisenhower signed with the Greys. The Greys are one of the ETs. I'm reading to you some facts. In 1954, Greada Treaty, a deal Eisenhower signed with the Greys that allowed abductions in exchange for technology. Folks, this is a long time ago. A treaty that was then broken. A treaty Trump is now closing the loop on. So a little bit of a setup here. We'll see a clip and we'll have Riccardo weigh in. And then we're going to talk about next war. Both guests in the premiere episode of Off-World, both guests speak of Black League, the Lion Wars, Project Looking Glass, many of our viewers have heard of, and a galactic war that has been raging for eons. They reveal in the episode that many souls from the future have incarnated here to right a very terrible wrong, to course correct humanity before it's too late. Folks, we're getting help. Collier's closing message: it's not about the ETs. It's all about us. Their purpose is to help remind us of who we are. To our audience, the portal is open. Come through. Let's listen to a very brief clip from Alex Collier. It's actually a 5-minute clip. Alex Collier and Delta Force's Chuck Sellers. Let's listen to this clip, and we're going to have Riccardo Bosi weigh in on this very topic. Run the clip, sir.
I think Star Trek, the movie Star Trek, the TV show, was a documentary of what we had been doing millions of years ago. Okay? I think Battlestar Galactica, that came after Star Trek, was a documentary of the flight of humanity from the attacking reptiles in the Lyran star systems, and that where they were actually fighting to stay alive and make their way to Earth to colonize and survive the attack by the reptilians. Um, all of those things seem possible. And in movies that are out, all the movies that are out back it up. They're like, to me, they're like documentaries. Nothing's new under the sun. They're all documentaries of something that happened in the future, and that hopefully we're learning from now.
Yes, I would add the movie The Matrix to the list of documentaries.
Exactly.
For certain. We're going to wind this broadcast down with a final question and then open the floor to anything you gentlemen want to share. And we'll go back to Alex. And if you care to comment quickly, Alex, on President Trump, does he know a lot more than meets the eye, especially off the heels of what was reported by Tom Lennox?
I think all the presidents after Bill Clinton had to be given more information. Remember, Bill Clinton tried like crazy to get information regarding proof of UFOs and extraterrestrials, and his head of the FBI and his director of the CIA kept hitting a stone wall because the NSA had classified that data, rhyolite and zebra above, so that the president couldn't be read into it. And so he didn't have the right classification. Getting back to something Colonel Sellers just said, sir, the Andromedans have said, and I've been saying this for 35 years, that many souls from the future have come back in time to right a terrible wrong. In other words, we've incarnated here in order to right a terrible wrong that happens in the future. And that falls in line with what you just said, your comment. So I wanted to give you kudos on that. I think you're on the nose with that. Trump is the guy. He was the guy. He is the right man at the right time, at the right moment. He's just the one. And, what I've learned is that heroes are always necessary, and they can be made from even the scantiest of materials. Not that Trump is, but it can be anybody. But they're always made out of necessity. And I think all of the experiences he has had, even the comparisons to Pat that have often been made in regards to him, General Patton, all of those things have come together to culminate. He has all the right experience. He has the temperament. He has the will. The guy is as strong as you can imagine anybody. He's got this iron will, and he's just the right guy to make this happen. And it's going to happen. We're going to be successful. We're going to break out of the matrix. We're going to be free. We're going to have an opportunity to manifest the world that we want. We just have to catch up, and we ourselves have to do the inner work so that we know what it is that we want. You can't build something if you don't know what it is you want. And that's something every one of us individually have to make decisions about. Who are we going to be, and what is it that we want, so that we can focus on manifesting it and making it happen. And we're going to be okay. I know that we're going to be okay. It's going to be a little rocky because people are still waking up. It's not going to happen overnight. It may take us another 15, 20, 25 years to really appreciate everything that's happened. But we'll get there. We will get there. And, the ET piece, it's interesting But ladies and gentlemen, it's not about the extraterrestrials. This is all about us. Their purpose for being here is to help remind us of who we are. All right? That's the reason. This is about us, humanity, on the earth, coming together, achieving our potential, understanding what our potential is, so that we can join the stars and help free other civilizations out there as well. Because we'll have the experience, you know, we will have the experience to mentor other races. And that's our contribution.
Your thoughts, Colonel Bosi. Oh, we've got no sound on you, sir. Your microphone. There we go.
Yeah, sorry, my mistake, John. Sorry about that. This is very, very exciting. Like many people, I've been waiting a little impatiently for some of this to come out. Now, this isn't necessarily my bailiwick. My job is to provide leadership for the country, so the people can lead themselves, not to actually lead the country necessarily. I have a very, very specific remit, let's say, but the context in which this is happening is fantastic. And you're right. And Alex is right. It's not about the ETs. The ETs, they're there. And to continue that idea of the Star Trek, there's Kirk and Spock and McCoy, and they're driving down past a planet. They have a look. It's a Class M planet, Earth-like. And they look down, and there's a civilization that needs to be left alone to grow. But some civilizations get interfered with by other civilizations, and you're not allowed to interfere. So say the rules. And so they need help. And we're that planet. We're that Class M planet that needed help, got help. And my understanding is we came close to not surviving this, because there was a real threat on this planet to the rest of the universe. Fortunately, we ducked that bullet, and now they're helping us advance. And there's evidence for it everywhere. Now, it's gonna confuse a lot of people. It's going to upset a lot of people. Religious fundamentalists are going to have the hardest time, because they have a very strict view of the nature of the Creator, the powerful intelligence outside of space, time, energy, and matter. And it's almost like they believe he turned up, 600 years ago, or 1400 years ago, or 2000 years ago, and before that nothing happened. It's almost childlike, and the reason it's childlike is by design, because that's how most of us were taught our religion. The only thing we remember is what we were taught at the age of 9, and then we continue our lives as adults, but with this very childlike interpretation of the nature of the life, universe, and everything. Of course, we're going to be stuck. Human development, we know that evolution's a lie. Charles Darwin knew it was a lie. Human advancement wasn't a smooth trajectory upwards. We were going nowhere, and then something popped into somebody's head somewhere, and they developed tools, and then they developed agriculture, then they developed, and then they developed. Well, sorry folks, but it didn't come from some clever monkey looking at a fire and saying, hey, you know what, if we burn this particular red dirt at a particular temperature for a particular period of time, we might be able to get a thing called metal out of that and make sharp tools. It just didn't happen. And if you go back into the Hindu Vedas, hey, intergalactic wars in the skies over the subcontinent, which can be interpreted as gods fighting, or maybe ETs having a bit of a stoush as well. It's everywhere. And this process is going to be extraordinarily illuminating. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very painful for some. But this is where we are, and this is where we need to go. This is where we need to be. It's interesting. In my book, the last chapter is you, and I talk about the pillars of leadership, but the last one's about you and who you were created to be, and we have to find out who we were created to be. And that's an intentionally broad statement, because who are we? Who were we? Who do we want to become? And these are all valid questions that every one of us needs to now consider, because the scope of our life is just about to expand. Other life forms? I mean, there are life forms that resemble a cloud of gas. There are There are life forms that resemble super dense materials that if there was a teaspoon on the planet, the gravity of it would collapse the entire Earth. And they are intelligences. It boggles the mind. If you think Star Trek is exciting, wait till you see the real world. It's going to be brilliant fun. But we'll get through it. We'll be okay. As Alex Collier said, we'll get through it. And the one piece of advice I give to people is understand that the powerful intelligence outside of space-time, energy, and matter, the creator of all that is seen and unseen, everyone bows to that power. Good guys, bad guys, Satan, ETs, they might have different names for it. Some call them the universal. But we'll agree on one thing. This powerful creator, the creator of all that is seen and unseen, is daily involved in our lives. We haven't been cast aside to do the best we can. Even the ETs operate to the creator. They follow instructions like the rest of us. Now, nobody knows the whole plan. But Michael knows the whole plan. Only God knows God's mind. The rest of us are doing our best to do what we can. But we're all there. We're all under the same creator. We look a little different, communicate a little differently. There are good guys and bad guys. But again, even the concept of right and wrong on a galactic scale is difficult to define. For example, as I've said before, if a mosquito lands on my hand and I swat the mosquito and crush it, am I a cruel and evil creature, or am I just preventing an itch on my hand? So is that right or wrong? Is that cruel and evil? And so even simple terms like right and wrong become almost undefinable from our perspective. That doesn't relieve us of the responsibility as sapient entities to decide for ourselves what we think is right and wrong and doing the best to live that way. And then as we progress, definitions like that, which seem very simple and very clear, which are anything but, we will learn through experience by making up laws that suit us, as long as we understand there's divine law that we don't muck around with. That's God's realm. That's the realm of souls. Then there's natural law. They're the laws of the density in which we live. Some things work, some things don't. You don't invade Russia in winter. Nobody's ever succeeded, and they won't. But there are human laws that we're required to decide for ourselves, and this goes back to the individual sovereignty of each human. We are required to make our laws and see how they work. And if we decide that traveling at 100 miles an hour past a school is pretty dumb idea, we start lowering it. And we get to a point where the laws we make sense and then promote peace and prosperity throughout the planet. So it's the responsibility. We can't deny the responsibilities anybody but our own. It's up to us to make it work. And win or lose, we will learn from it. We either win or learn. As I tell my children, you're either going to win or you're going to learn. Both are okay. But we'll be okay, and it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait for more to come out.
Thank you. Great talking points there, and insightful and inspirational. A couple of follow-ups before we talk about next war is, we cited a 1954 treaty that Eisenhower and the Greys signed and was broken, and so forth and so on. So to the skeptics listening right now, take note of that. That's an official document dating back to Eisenhower. And what is Trump releasing? File. What do they have? Lots of information for better than 60 years now. Probably longer than that, but certainly since Eisenhower as the marker moving forward. And we're starting to see these images being covered by Fox News. Jesse Waters covers it. He put up the four of the main types of ETs, the reptilians, the Greys, and a couple of others. And so this is something we should embrace. I'm intrigued. I mean, now you raised an important point, Rick, about those that feel that this certain aspects of this subject matter butt up against their religious beliefs. And you've calmed that a bit with some of your words a moment ago. To that point, because I'm trying to continue to bring truth and unity to our movement and to humanity. It's really one of my roles. And thanks to folks like you and other great contributors, we're doing that. But I'm asking those listening, when it comes to this subject matter, take note that this isn't conspiracy. These are files since Dwight Eisenhower. That now, finally, we have a transparent president at this, by no accident, this specific time in history that these files need to be released. They're here. They've been here, and we're getting some help. Now, the religious aspect, I'm going to, in the next episode, folks, we have Alex Collier as my anchor. He'll be there. We're bringing in Dr. Sala, who's going to also weigh in on this subject of off-world activity. And we're bringing in, you may remember, Bishop Jim O'Connor, Riccardo, that we had on our panel, our Global Defense War last year. Yeah, served in a clergy capacity in the armed forces. Great man. He's going to be visiting us in the next episode to address some of the concerns that people have. Are these demonic? Are they alien? Are they fallen angels? What's the story? Does this compete with God? Does this trump God? And of course, the answer is no. But I'm not a biblical scholar. And so I'm going to bring in, again, my job is to bring people to the table that know things with credentials to help us all make sense of the times that we're in. I, for one, am thrilled. I'm embracing it. And again, if the popcorn is overflowing, just get a bigger bucket because you're going to need one. Any quick comments, Rick, before you take over the reins and talk about next war? The perfect dovetail.
Oh, there's so much I'd like to say, but I won't. It's not my remit. But understand this: nobody has the whole picture. We all have little glimpses of it, and you might have your own. What it does do, it will bring peace to people who have suspected for a long time there is a truth out there that has not been shared with us, and they've been ridiculed and lampooned. And a lot of people will be relieved that what they've seen, what they've experienced, is real, and they're excited about what's coming. But other than that, no, I'm good to go.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you for all your commentary and analysis in this broadcast and every broadcast. I'm going to turn the airwaves over to you, sir. Educate me, educate our audience, walk us through what next war is. And I'll be back on screen with you to wrap up the show after this. So let's go full screen with this PowerPoint and listen to the important information that retired Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi of Australia One in Australia has to share with us. Full screen.
Okay, have you got me there on sound? I hope so, yes. Okay, this is Next War, ladies and gentlemen. It's a bit of an interesting one. I was cooking dinner the other night, and I had a stern look on my face because when I do some deep thinking, I look like I'm cross. I'm not, but I am. And my daughter came up and said, "Dad, what's wrong?" I said, "Oh, nothing. I'm just trying to link the 30 Years' War, the treaties of Westphalia, the assassin of Khomeini in Iran, and future warfare into one narrative." And she looked at me and smiled and said, "I was just thinking of memes, Dad." So that's what this is about, next war. This is linking three sense, but in terms of what I used to do professionally in the military and what I do occasionally now in my spare time is anticipate events, circumstances, and what perplexes me at the moment, or what I'm working on, is next war. There's a preceding this particular problem. I remember when in the mid-90s when I was a staff officer in Headquarters Special Ops, and my job was future warfare capability development, and I needed to be ahead of the curve like all futurists do. And so I thought, okay, what's the big event happening at the moment? Well, it's the internet. It's just exploding. What is the internet? I'm not quite sure. But I knew there was an equivalent in the past, and I had to find the impact of that equivalent event in the past in order to anticipate the future. And it occurred to me the Gutenberg Bible on the printing press, that's an event where all of a sudden the Bible was accessible in the local language in great numbers, because previously the Bible was in Latin and controlled by the priest class. Well, now it was in German and available to everybody. And this explosion of information democratized knowledge, and it had a massive effect on society. And so I thought, that's the equivalent. So I found a PhD thesis on exactly that, the impact of the printing press on society. I extrapolated that into 20th century, because this was in the 90s now, 20th century warfare, and it assisted me in seeing what was likely to come and how we should prepare for it. So the same process. I'm thinking about what's going on now, what went on in the past, and how can that prepare us for the future. So let's have a look at it. Centers of gravity and decisive point. What's the relationship between the elimination by the US of Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei in 28th February 2026, 17th century European Peace of Westphalia that ended the 30 Years' War, and fifth generation warfare and beyond? And that's my real interest. Where are we going next? So this information is from Dr. Steve Turley from Turley Talks. There's a typo there in his name. His name is Steve, not Struve. My mistake. Apologies, Steve. Please look this gentleman up. He gives a very intelligent perspective on issues. And these are his words coming up. The subject: morphing targets, previous wars, current wars, and future wars. Now, this is Turley speaking. What if Operation Epic Fury was, in point of fact, a thoroughly religious war? When the Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei was killed on the first day of the strikes, the Western press treated it as a political event, right? The Supreme Leader's gone. There's a power vacuum now. There's successor dynamics. There's a geopolitical realignment. All perfectly reasonable things to analyze, but all completely missing the main point. Once again, this is Turley speaking. Khamenei was not primarily a political figure. He was a theological one. His authority didn't derive from elections or from military force alone, or from economic performance. The legitimate authority actually derived from a specific theological claim, one that held that a supreme religious scholar must be the one to govern the Islamic State, in the absence of the hidden imam. Now, what's that all about? Many people are unaware that Shiite Islam believes that the last great teacher and ruler of Islam, the 9th century Imam Muhammad al-Mahdi, never died. He is still living, but he's entered a state of temporary hiddenness, and the Iranian Ayatollah has been ordained by God to rule in his place until he appears again. That doctrine is the entire architecture of the Islamic Republic. Most of Shiite society for the last 1,000 years has largely stayed out of politics, waiting for the hidden imam to return. But Ayatollah Khamenei overthrew the Shah back in 1979 explicitly with a political theology where the Ayatollah rules in the place of the hidden imam. If that rule is crushed, then the entire theological project implodes with it. And I believe the White Hats knew exactly what they were doing. Western political science was built deliberately and self-consciously on the assumption that religion and politics can be separated. That assumption has very deep roots. It can be traced through the Westphalian settlement of the 17th century, through the Enlightenment of the 18th century, through the rise of liberalism in the 19th century, through the entire architecture of modern social science in the 20th century. So the idea of separating politics and religion is the way it should be, apparently. That's what we've been. The whole enterprise was designed to explain politics without reference to theology, to bracket the sacred, to treat the belief as private variable that doesn't affect the equations of power. It worked reasonably well for explaining European and American politics in the 20th century, but it catastrophically fails the moment you try to apply it to civilizations where the sacred and the political have never been separated, like Iran. In my words now, the elimination of Khamenei was an example of the fifth generation warfare as it undermined the minds of the people, Islamic control of the country. So this is fifth gen warfare. This wasn't simply a political assassination. This was an effective part of a series of acts to undermine the control regime within Iran. And it worked a treat. A sidebar. One thing that we must understand that is different to those that have religious beliefs strong enough to fight those wars. We believe their people is a victory for us, and they believe that being killed in a war is their currency. It makes them stronger. So in applying a Western solution to a religious, let's say, a non-Christian religious problem, actually empowers them more and more. And that lack of understanding, that lack of capacity to get into the mind of your adversary has continued to grow more and more wars rather than stop them. Years' War, 1618 to 1648, and the Peace of Westphalia. So how are all these tying together? Well, the 30 Years' War fought primarily in Central Europe between 1618 and 1648 between Catholics and Protestants, was one of the most destructive conflicts in European history. An estimated 4.5 to 8 million soldiers and civilians died from battle, famine, or disease. That's a huge number given the population of Europe at the time. European war was extraordinarily destructive through new technologies and new approaches, and existing political and religious structures could no longer contain it. And the wars in Europe, just so you're aware, this 30 Years' War, they were religious wars. The Catholics controlled certain countries, the Protestant controlled others, and of course there were the desires for empire. I get that, but it was based along religious lines, and this religious tension fueled this for 30 years, destroying much of Europe. Something had to change. The Peace of Westphalia is the collective name for the two historic peace treaties signed in October 1648 in the Westphalian cities of Münster and Osnabrück, and that's in the north west of Germany, not on the coast, but in the northwest. These agreements ended war in the Holy Roman Empire and the 80 Years' War between Spain and the Dutch Republic. The treaties laid the foundation for the modern nation-state based on the concept of state sovereignty. This means that each independent nation has complete control over its own territory, domestic affairs, and foreign policy, without interference from outside powers like the Pope or the Holy Roman Emperor, who were fighting for Catholics against Protestants and vice versa. And so the intention was to stop the capacity for these destructive wars to continue. And so the nation state, the beginning of the nation state, was one of the results of the Peace of Westphalia, and national sovereignty and the right of a nation state to conduct its internal affairs without external interference. So what we've got is this. We've had pre-modern warfare, and then when it got so destructive as a result of gunpowder and mass formations, something had to change. So we've got all these, a confluence of different ideas, of belief systems, of the purpose of war. And the Peace of Westphalia was an attempt to change everything so this headlong trajectory into hell could be at least slowed, if not whole. And so from the end of that period, 1648 to the 1860s, we had first generation warfare. Line and column tactics, smoothbore muskets, massed infantry formations, and strict discipline. Warfare was formal and state-controlled with clear distinctions between combatants and civilians. Examples, the Napoleonic Wars, the American Civil War, at least the early phases. So there were some rules coming in. Second generation warfare, 1860s to the 1940s. Industrial era warfare focused on massed firepower, artillery, matter, that's stuff, guns, and attrition. Emphasis on destroying the enemy through superior volume of fire than maneuver. For example, World War I, trench warfare, and World War II in the early phases. Third generation, 1940s to the present, still dominant in conventional forces. Characteristics: maneuver warfare that bypasses enemy strong points to strike at rear areas. Command nodes and logistics, speed, surprise, and initiative are prioritized over attrition. Example, German blitzkrieg in World War II, modern Western maneuver doctrine. This works beautifully when you have Western nations fighting Western nations, not so great when there is an asymmetrical nature to it. It's the fourth generation warfare, post-Vietnam War to present. Characteristics: asymmetrical warfare conducted primarily by non-state actors, insurgents, terrorists, and militias. It blurs the lines between combatant and civilian, uses a combination of guerrilla tactics, terrorism, propaganda, and political warfare to undermine the will of stronger state opponents. Example, Vietnam War, Iraq, Afghanistan, insurgencies, modern conflicts. Now you're probably wondering, why am I dragging us through this? Well, it's important to understand what comes next. Now, these definitions and breakdowns are largely arbitrary, but they're close enough to make the point. And now we talk about it, which everyone has probably heard about if they don't understand. Emerging since the early 2000s and still evolving. Warfare that targets the mind, perceptions, and decision-making of the opponent rather than physical destruction. Heavily reliant on information operations, cyber warfare, AI, social media manipulation, deep fakes, cognitive warfare, and influence campaigns, often conducted below the threshold of open armed conflict, which is a gray zone in warfare. That's fifth-gen warfare, and we know that we've been subject to this for at least a quarter of a century, if not longer. And in fact, elements of it going back 50, 60, 70 years. So, what's next, I think? Well, if we look back, the battlefield was increasingly the information space and the human cognition. However, technology skills have opened the way for non-linear offensive and defensive capability development. What do I mean by that? Just like the war, the 30 Years' War, where they slugged it out with ancient ideas, with ancient weapons, and nearly destroyed Europe, and just like the treaty, the Peace of Westphalia, which attempted to halt this headlong trajectory into hell, we have to think about it now before we end up there. And it's already been started. We have to think about this. What's happening next? Now, what I've decided, rather than the 6th gen, 7th gen, and 8th gen warfare, I've just given them categories as I'm working through this problem. And the categories have some duplication. They're not perfect, but this is a work in progress, trying to understand what's going to shape the next war. Because this is critical for all of us to understand, even those that aren't military professionals, because there are political and legal implications of what I'm about to tell you. And you have to have an opinion. And that opinion is best made when it's informed. So category C, we'll call it cognitive, decision influencing capabilities. Human thought, perception, emotion, and decision-making processes. Now, this sounds like 5G, but it's more than that. Mind-to-mind influence, direct mental communication or influence between individuals without physical or technological intermediaries. Now, this is really going to stretch some people, but just go with it. Mind-to-mind influence, the capacity for communication between individuals without physical or technological intermediaries. Imagine if your adversaries can do that, but you can't. Matter-to-mind influence, the use of technology, for example, brain-computer interfaces, electromagnetic fields, or subliminal systems to shape thoughts, emotions, and decisions. We know about this. This is already being tried. Mind-to-matter influence, human mental control or interaction with matter and systems at a non-physical level. So concentrating on an issue and seeing a result with matter. This one I have personally observed. So this stuff is real. Hacking and perception warfare, systematic manipulation of an individual or group's understanding of reality through targeted information, neurostimulation or psychological conditioning, and we have been subject to that to some degree. Category P, psychotronic mind-to-matter capabilities. And as I said, there's a bit of overlap, but go with me. Direct influence on physical matter over distance or distant observation without conventional technological mediation. Kinesis or psychokinesis, the ability to move or manipulate physical objects through mental focus alone. Remote viewing, the capacity to gather information about distant or hidden targets using only the mind. And we know that our good friend Mike Jaco is involved in this and many other similar capabilities. So these are real. Materialization, techniques involving the mental creation and dissolution of physical matter. Bio-PK, biological psychokinesis, the mental influence over living systems such as affecting biological processes or harm at a distance. Once again, imagine if your adversaries have these capabilities. Category N, neuro-consciousness manipulation. These involve the use of unconventional energy forms or disruptive or influential effects, modification and enhancement, technologies or techniques that alter brain function, memory, personality, or cognitive performance. These are happening as we speak. Consciousness transfer or extension, concepts involving the transfer, duplication, or expansion of human consciousness into other substrates. Cloning. Dream or subconscious influence, methods aimed at shaping thoughts, beliefs, or behavior through subconscious or dream state. consciousness, interference, techniques targeting shared beliefs, group identity, or society morale at a mass scale. Now, these are beginning to become quite terrifying. Category E, exotic, non-kinetic energy systems. These involve the use of unconventional energy forms for disruptive or influential effects. Energy systems, advanced applications of lasers, microwaves, or particle beams for non-lethal or psychological effects. So have already been impacted by that. Psychotronic weapons, devices that use electromagnetic or other energy fields to affect mental states, emotions, or physical health at a distance. And torsion field technologies, energy systems which operate beyond conventional electromagnetic principles. Frequency-based systems, use of specific frequencies to affect biological organisms, infrastructure, or consciousness. Category Q, quantum, multi-domain speculative systems. 12 applications of quantum mechanics or multi-dimensional concepts to warfare. Quantum entanglement communications, instantaneous unhackable communication across distances, quantum sensing and targeting, ultra-precise detection and engagement, capabilities beyond current technological limits, dimensional multi-reality operations, concepts involving influence across perceived or theoretical dimensions, information as a fundamental force, treating information itself as a manipulable domain capable of altering physical or cognitive reality. Sounds like off-world stuff, doesn't it? It's here. Conclude. Just wanted to zip through that. The nature of war has once again changed. Its methods, its objectives, its participants. We must change in order to survive it, just like the 30 Years' War and the Treaty of Westphalia. Now, what do I mean by that? We must collectively agree a morally, politically, legally, and militarily sound way to move forward. Let me just finish with this point. AI will accelerate all of this. Have we the capacity to defeat AI? No. If it is not our slave, it will be our master. Laws must be written based on a moral understanding of the individual rights of human, the right of human agency to remain paramount, to make sure there is a human in the loop of all of these systems, that AI cannot make determinations of what's best for humanity absent human input. Legal frameworks must be written. Military laws for its implementation must be created and applied. Now, we mentioned this on one of John's other shows. There is a current court case, John and Jane Doe versus Palantir, because what they are trying to do is to protect the right of each human on this planet to their private thoughts and their private decision-making process, the God-given right to free will. That's what's at stake. And we cannot allow private enterprise to simply decide for itself how it will do this. It must be constrained. And if you want a rather blunt analogy, we don't let everybody have a nuclear weapon in their back garden, and with good reason, despite Second Amendment rights. This has greater potential for destroying human life on Earth than any nuke ever would. So I wanted to put that in there to give the viewers of this particular show some next level issue to consider, that we can talk about doing high altitude, high opening, hey-ho jumps over Iran to secure refining facilities, but you've got to understand that's minor tactical activity. We've got to think of grand strategies to understand we are setting ourselves up to successfully survive the next war, successfully win the next war against less moral adversaries, but we're going to need hard capabilities to do it. And we need to think about it, and we need to establish the rules and laws to make sure that we don't spend the next 30 years tearing ourselves apart and potentially putting human life on Earth at risk. And that, as they say, is it. Well, thank you for indulging me there, John. I much appreciate it.
You bet.
Let me just now get rid of that. Oh, I'm coming there. I'll be with you shortly. Hold on. Here we go.
Sure.
There we go. And we're back.
There he is.
There we go. So I just want to thank you for indulging me on that, because I know this audiences are particularly on the front foot, let's say, well informed, and they need to see things more than just the 6 inches in front of your face. There's an old saying in the military, the diggers are fighting the war, and the boss says, you got to look at the big picture. And the soldier says, well, it's a bit hard to see the big picture when I'm focusing on my foresight, because that's what you're focusing on when you're shooting. But you can't focus on your foresight the whole time. Someone's going to step back, look at the big picture and say, folks, we're fighting on the wrong hill. We should be 3 kilometers to the west. That's where the target should be. So this is understanding the center of gravity and the decisive points that we need to, as people who claim to have the sovereign right to determine their own lives. Well, that comes with a price, and that price is study and responsibility. So thank you again for indulging me, John. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for presenting that brilliant walkthrough history, the definitions of warfare. And most intriguing, of course, is all the aspects you broke down by the alphabet categorizations of fifth generational warfare. Very high level and very intriguing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably next year. I'm personally waiting for certain ultimate victories to take place and the justice things to be revealed and so forth. But I'd love to delve into particularly the latter part of what your presentation about those subjects, because I'll put it out there. I mean, and you think back to yesteryear, one would never want a digital currency. One would never want a quantum financial system where they can read our frequency and vibration and determine if we're good or bad and can access our money. We would never have subscribed to that. That we could be called the mark of the beast, all kinds of things. Yet here it is. And nothing can stop what's coming with regards to these technologies and these new systems that were being developed. And quite frankly, I'm embracing it all. As I've learned and continue to learn, first off, I never worry about something I can't control. That's just the way I tick. I'm talking about something big like this. I mean, me, John Chambers, cannot physically control the momentum of AI, robots, and quantum technologies. But there's so much good that can be had from all of this. And we've dripped that out in various different programs over time. And that is what I'm welcoming for sure. I know it's a little off the mark of what you talked about, but it's related. And then you enter in the off-world activities that are now being revealed to us, not conspiratorial, just transparent files from the president, and we ain't seen nothing yet. I guess what I'm saying is would probably be good to have, I usually don't do debates, I'm not in a debate mode right now. I picked my lane. We're at war. I know who the enemy is, and we are fighting that war, okay? But once we win this war, and it's close at hand, perhaps already done to some extent, but when it's official and we're past certain things, I'd love to get with you and perhaps some other great minds like yourself and really delve into some of the subject that you talked about, particularly in the end, and with technology and with the off-world things that we don't know about yet that we'll know about a year or so from now, and start delving into the subject and see what comes up. Because, Musk says there'll be more robots working than humans. Well, that's interesting. So there's a pro and a con, as I see it, to everything related to AI, robotics, and this fifth generational warfare that you broke down. I'm rambling a bit too much here because, everything you just presented hasn't fully sunken in with me yet. There was a lot of language there and a lot to grasp onto, but I found it very interesting and thought-provoking for me. I'm curious if you're catching my drift at all, to use that term.
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm going with this? Elaborate a little bit. Shouldn't we be discussing this from multiple perspectives down the line when we're victorious in our battles now? I mean, there's pros and cons
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
everything that we're being confronted with. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the advantages that are coming with robotics and AI are just extraordinary, and I welcome them. I really do. I mean, think about it. It's like having a scythe or a ride-on mower to clear your paddock. Now, which one do you want, the ride-on mower or a scythe? And so there are advantages to future capabilities that we grasp, but there's a warning whispering in my ear the whole time. Now, we're not going to go completely Amish, if you get my drift, but there's got to be some metric by which we know when we've gone too far. Now, one of the key metrics is free will. The moment we lose free will, the moment we collectively allow AI to decide our future, then we have a real problem. You just can't hand it over. This gift from God saying we've got free will. You better use it, and you better be smart enough to use it. So we're going to enter a period where we are going to be tested. Here's a new technology. Can you handle it? Now, if you want a recent example where we couldn't, that was nuclear power. Because as you know, when we got nukes, the rest of the universe got very interested in what the hell those morons on Earth were about to do to each other and other things. And so they stepped in because we couldn't handle it. Now we're hopefully in a place where we can handle that, but we're going to be given as a species a series of not tests so much, but can you handle this? Yes, okay, let's move to the next one. Let's move to the next one. Oh, you cocked that up. We better go back a class and make sure you can handle it before you move on. And we're not even talking generations. We're talking a long time. Now, there's a lot that we must learn to do, and one of those things we used to be able to do, which is what's it called, impulse control. An adult has impulse control. You want to do it, but you don't, for a whole range of reasons. You might get locked up. It's not a good thing to do. It doesn't put you in a good light. There's a whole bunch of reasons why we employ impulse control, and that's just one of a number of adult qualities which seem to have gone by the wayside here on planet Earth in the 21st century. I wouldn't call us animals because it's an insult to the animals. They have no reason to behave differently. We do. And yet impulse control on this planet is now near zero. The fact that we haven't torn ourselves apart, I think the White Hats are probably spraying us with something to settle us all down. So we don't do it. And so we as a species must evolve. We must decide what's right and wrong. And that's why everything comes back to this world morality. And that's why the first metric by which Australia One will be successful for our end state is a moral people, moral, sovereign, self-reliant, Christian, Western, etc. But moral, we must decide what's right and wrong. And different cultures have different definitions of right and wrong. And we must agree what's right and wrong. Why? Because the role of a government, and we're supposed to be sovereign creatures who create laws for ourselves, those laws are predicated on our understanding of what's right and wrong. So if you can't define right and wrong, you can't write laws. And if you can't write laws, you can't govern yourself. So we have to agree. Now, whether we use different patches of Earth for different cultures with different ideas of right and wrong, so at least country A with one set of right and wrong is not in constant conflict with country B with a different set of right and wrong. This is the fundamental tension within multicultural societies. Now, multicultural societies are brilliant in terms of food and dance and drink and dress and language and expression and all sorts of good stuff. But I can tell you, as a Christian country, we don't need to absorb any morality from some of these other religions that consider themselves supremacists. So are we throwing people out or preventing them from coming because we don't like them or their skin's the wrong color? No. It's just that their foundational beliefs of what is wrong and what's acceptable and not, upon which we'll design laws, are at such variance with us that they cannot coexist. And this is a fundamental understanding that the people of planet Earth need in the next few years when populations start getting moved back to where they might be better suited to go through their particular trajectory of evolution, societal and cultural evolution. So these are big decisions we need to have. These are big discussions we must have. And we've all got to start thinking about it because we can't move forward otherwise. We will stay exactly where we are until we earn the right to become more. And it's up to us. The speed of our development is entirely up to us. we keep watching football, having barbecues and drinking beer till you fall over. Well done. In 1,000 years, you'll be doing the same stuff. It's time to grow up, all of us. And then as we grow, we will evolve, not so much physically, although there are skill sets that will be released when the constraints that have been placed upon us are removed, but we better be able to handle them. So it's a big job ahead of all of us. And that's why, for example, in A1, we start very small. Let's see if we can handle running a county. And if we can run a county for a few decades, maybe we might be able to run a region, and then maybe we can run a state, and maybe we can run a country. Because everyone's got to step up, and screaming into a microphone isn't going to cut it anymore, or punching somebody because they jumped in line in front of you at the line at the local Burger King isn't going to cut it anymore. That sort of aberrant behavior is just so completely unacceptable. Anyway, so as you said, I agree. There should be it'd be an interesting discussion, and this court case against Palantir will be very interesting as well.
You bet. What great change is brewing, already begun and underway, that's going to accelerate rather quickly, in my opinion, in the very near future. And so, to use the sayings we all say, but it's true, it really is an amazing time to be alive. And I appreciate your contributions to this broadcast, and very much look forward to speaking with you 2 more weeks from now at Bosi Briefs, where you and I can break down what we saw take place, particularly you, on the events of the 4th of July, as we did with UFC 250. So we're going to close out this broadcast. Let's put up the image of Riccardo's book. To connect up with Riccardo Bosi, you can visit jmcbroadcasting.com. Click on the contributors tab. You'll see Riccardo Bosi right there at the top, his photograph, his somewhat of extended bio, and a link to follow Riccardo's work outside of the broadcast that he and I do together. You can pick up a copy of his book, The Greatness Awaits You, The 5 Pillars of Real Leadership, at wilkinson.publishing.com.au. That's Wilkinson, WILIKONSON, publishing.com.au, also available at amazon.com. I want to thank you, sir. We are recording this USA July 3rd, the eve of. It's July 4th for you in Australia, and for me here in Thailand. And this will be broadcast on Monday after the fact. So I look forward to watching some of the festivities and reading between the lines, and very much look forward to broadcasting the follow-up with you and others post July 4th. Thank you, Riccardo Bosi, for your keen insight and analysis. Follow the great international treasure, Riccardo Bosi. You do inspire and motivate a lot of people, and you have grounded a lot of people through this time that we are enduring. And I thank you on their behalf, and I thank you as well. I'll be right back after this important announcement about off-world activity.
Since President Dwight D. Eisenhower, top secret files were created concerning off-world activity and visits to planet Earth. Undoubtedly, over the decades, these files have grown. Area 51 is commonly known. We've heard and seen images of UFOs, but not until now has this been validated and presented to the American people and to the world, as President Donald J. Trump released the first tranche of top-secret files. This is the beginning. There's much more to come. Join John Michael Chambers and guests on a new monthly panel, JMC Broadcast, Off-World with JMC. Premiere episode launches Thursday, June 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Subscribe for free by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com and join us on this intriguing and challenging journey together, taking the Great Awakening to new and higher heights. Come travel through the portal with us. Where we go one, we go all.
I think Riccardo Bosi had us travel through some portals on this current broadcast, which I very much appreciated. Do check out Offworld. It publishes each month. Visit jmcbroadcasting.com. On our homepage, it's the broadcasting guide, listing all the different broadcasts or all niche-focused, specialized programming and when they are to be published. Also, we see on the screen here, just as a reminder, come meet Sheila Holm in our private Zoom room live for 1 hour, sole purpose to answer your questions. Sheila Holm for the hour. I'll be there as your host. How do you participate? Well, if you're not already a premium member, you can learn about that option by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com, click on Premium Portal, and see if this is a fit for you. I'm sure it will be, and if it is, we very much look forward to seeing you there. All right, 107, again, as a reminder, get out to Las Vegas, and if you can't make it, I failed to mention this earlier, we will be streaming it live again. We're working out those details with Juan's team, but get out there, fill the seats, stormsummit.us, Storm Summit in Las Vegas, September 10th through 13th. Come meet 107. They're going for the jugular here. Arrests, honest elections, and sound money. Those are the subjects that are on everyone's mind. And it is these things, justice that needs to be done, vindication, validation, and justice, honest elections, and sound money. You don't have a free America, and you don't have sovereignty as individuals without those two things. Storm Summit 107, be there. All right, that's a wrap. I want to thank once again our good friend, retired Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi of Australia One, for his keen insights and brilliant analysis, helping us all to make sense of the madness. Happy 4th of July, everyone, off the heels of the 4th of July, the 250th. Nothing will stop what's coming. The light of God never, ever fails, and the light of God is shining on this nation and this world. Stay safe, everyone, and may God be with you.